Hi friends, welcome to my June wrap up. So let's start with the stats. I read 16 books in total this month, in which is equivalent to 5,170 pages. In terms of splitting it up by format, I read 6 physically and then 10 via audiobook. And then in terms of my star rating, I had 1 2 stars, 1 2.5 stars, 6 3 stars, 1 3.4 stars, 6 4 stars, and 1 4.5 stars. So let's start with my 2-star reads. That is A Court of a Vampire Queen. The themes included in this are demons, vampires, angels, and a lot of steamy scenes. I didn't really enjoy this book, so I'm not going to dwell on it for too long, but I didn't particularly enjoy the characters. There was way too much steam in this for me and for my taste. It was a very steamy book, and I feel like that was the whole concept of it, and the plot was sort of a subpar to that, in which I didn't particularly enjoy. But if that does sound interesting to you, then you might like it and you might enjoy it and want to pick it up. Then moving on to my 2.5 star reads, we have 𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚔. I think it's cool. The themes in which I would use to describe this is vague, post-nuclear / dystopian, wealth, status, and morality. And this was a very big discussion on those themes, and it was very vague in its nature, but I feel like that was the purpose of it. But I feel like that's why I didn't particularly love it as much as I wanted to. I found the writing very complex and lyrical for such a short read. I think it's just only over 100 pages. But morality is the main theme, and wealth and status, in which is questioned in this post-dystopian / nuclear world. And it is a really interesting almost character study on this. So yeah, if those themes sound interesting to you, then this one might be a book for you. Moving on to my 3-star reads, we first have 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘. I found this felt very juvenile, but it was a really interesting premise, fast moving, and I really enjoyed the writing style. The themes in which I would use to describe this is royalty, a female protagonist, action and adventure, and fear. Then we have Silver in the Wood, in which the themes I would use to describe this is a male-male romance, fairy tale-like characters of earth and woodlands, and mundane activities in a fantasy world. It was so magical, it was full of mythical elements in this fantasy world, and it felt like a fairy tale with the mundane elements woven into it. Then we have 𝚋𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘, and the themes I would use to describe this are witchcraft, small town, a cozy homely setting, and time traveling. This felt so cozy and homely, and there was so much going on in the best possible way. The romance made me smile a lot, and each of the characters had purpose. Then we have The River Has Teeth. Themes included in this one is a female-female romance, family, witches, death of a loved one, and vengeance. And this was a very wild ride. I really enjoyed the ending, the romance aspects, the family interwoven in it. There were so many potential endings, and the plot lines just wove into one another so beautifully, and I really enjoyed it. Next up is These Hollow Vows, and the themes I would use to describe this are a love triangle, romance, betrayal, mortal girl with magic. And I found the writing style to be very digestible, but personally the book wasn't anything magnificent or new for me. Then the final 3-star read is The American Roommate Experiment, in which included themes of forced proximity, protective hero, experimental partners, and self-worth. It was so fun, a little cringe at points, but throughout most of it I had a smile on my face. Then a 3.5-star rating includes Payback's a Witch, in which includes themes of sapphic, witchcraft, a competition, small town, and family. Also friendships and revenge on a previous lover. I wasn't a huge fan of the competition aspect, but I adored the whole small town and the families being interwoven. So although I didn't really like the competition running throughout of the book, I enjoyed how it was set up and how the world was built and how the relationships were all interwoven. So if any of those sound interesting to you, then I recommend this for a good witchy read. Next are 4-star reads, and we're starting with Every Heart a Doorway, in which includes themes of fairy tales and other worlds and boarding schools, finding your way, mystery, and slightly horror. I love the fairy tale aspect alongside the boarding school, mixed with some horror, all while feeling quite light-hearted. At no point did it feel heavy. It was such a quick read, and I enjoyed all of the characters, and it was so much fun. Then we have Yellow Jasmine, in which includes themes of mysterious, herbal tinctures and teas, gothic-y, small town, historic, and atmospheric. It was so so gothic-y and mysterious whilst also being really cozy with all of the herbal elements interwoven. I love books in which includes herbal elements within it. Perfect to snuggle up with while there is a storm outside next to a fire, as it would really add to the atmosphere. Then we have Drowned Country, in which I listened to straight after finishing Silver in the Wood. This has themes of fae, fairyland, character development, grumpy and golden retriever male-male romance, and whimsical writing. What a beautiful sequel. I find it dragged on at points, but the slow burning relationship was fun to view. Each of the characters were given an adventure to go on and to have within their life, in which was really fun, and I loved the way that it was all wrapped up in a pretty little package. Then we have Flower Heart, in which has themes of witches that practice in plants and botanics, a YA romance, we have a enemies / rivals to lovers, we have a friends to lovers, close parental relationships, following your dreams, and hope. At the beginning I felt like it was going to be a little bit too juvenile for me. The main character was quite whiny and a little bit annoying within the first quarter of this read. This book for sure has its flaws, and some of the plot points it could have read a lot quicker, or the pacing could have changed, but for what it was, I enjoyed it, and I loved the botanical flower aspect of it too. Then we have Bitterthorn. This was a stunning novel of two lost souls falling in love with gothicness and magic, all wrapped up with a happy ending, and it includes themes of witches, historical town, a female-female romance, gothic-y and lovely souls. Then we have The Lost Apothecary. This included 3 perspectives in which I really enjoyed reading, because each of them was almost left on a cliffhanger, so you wanted to get back to their perspective whilst also enjoying the rotation of the perspective, so I thought that was a beautiful twist on it. The way in which the story was told with now London and historical London, it was great to see the resemblance side by side alongside the changes. It really made you feel as though you were time traveling, and each of the characters had their own sort of storyline going on alongside with a main route which connected them together, and which I thought was a really interesting and intriguing concept, and beautiful writing to do this perfectly. Ending was so unexpected and I just adored every moment of it. This includes themes of historic and present timeline, witchery and tinctures, human power and finding yourself, cheating and marriage and unexpected friendships. Then we have my feature book of the month, in which is also my 4.5-star rating, and that is What Lies Beyond the Veil. Warnings for this include sexual harassment / assault, violence and death of a parent. And what I loved about this book was how it reminded me of just falling in love with fantasy romance and just reading again in general. I adored the descriptive and lyrical writing, and just how simplistic it was. It really brought it back to the fantasy romance basics for me, and the additions of the plot twist and that ending was so good. Although I could see it coming, it still hit me, and it made me smile so much and want to read the next book, which I still haven't done, but I promise I will do soon. What could have been better for me is the cringy nicknames. Sometimes it kind of pulled me out and away from the story, but I feel as though that's expected with your standard typical fantasy romance. So friends, those are all of the books I read this month, all 16 books. I really enjoyed and had a good reading month this month, and so I'm very pleased. I love to know what your favourite read of the month or your favourite reads of the month were, and yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Have a lovely day or night. Bye friends!